Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of the Dive In podcast. This one is a little bit different because we're filming it from San Diego, United States. And here with us I have a wonderful lady called Vivian, and she's going to tell us a lot about her entrepreneurial journey, her biography, the way she handled her business, and a lot of other interesting stuff. So stay tuned. Vivian, hello and
Hi.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking your time. I know you're busy, for being here with me. So, Vivian, I would like to start from the very beginning.
Oh, wow.
Yes. if you can recall your first college days and your, like, how did you choose economics and finance? And that part.
Yeah. So here in the U.S., the system here is, as you know, can be very competitive and so forth. I grew up in California and in New York. I was born in New York City. Both my parents came from Colombia, from Bogota, Colombia. So I'm considered a first-generation American. And my parents had no idea about the system here, which is different than South America.
Yes.
But they instilled in both myself and my brother education, the importance of education, of being educated, of being independent, of being self-fulfilled, and having a career and or whatever made you happy. But being a functional member of society was a big thing for both of them. So it was understood that we had to go to college, but we had to figure it out.
And how did you choose your university and your major?
So here in California, by the time we were in California, I was in high school. And I was on track. I was doing well in school, and I was on track to go to college, to a good college. And here in California, the University of California system is very well known. It's a very good system. Big public schools, UCLA, for example, if you've heard of that, UC Berkeley, that is part of UC California. But I didn't want to go to school there. I liked the school, but I wanted to leave. I wanted to go to school where people were different, because I'd been to high school here. I went to a big high school, and going into a big university like University of California to me, felt like I was going to be going to the same school with a bunch of other high school type friends, the same people from high school.
Yes, I get it. Okay.
So I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. So my junior year, my third year of high school, there was a program at my high school, and it was presented by a woman who talked about small liberal art colleges. And it turned out she went to Smith College, which was a school I had never really heard much about. It's a women's college. It is based in Massachusetts.
Only women's college.
Only women's college. It's part of a school system that was called the Seven Sisters. So before the Ivy Leagues, the Harvards, the Yales, the Princetons, those schools allowed women. They didn't allow women until the 1970s. So there were these other schools that were of that same caliber, and they were all women and private schools, and educated women for the next, either at that point, just educated women, which was a big deal. So Smith was one of them, and I just loved her presentation. I learned more. I talked to her afterwards, and that's how I learned about Smith College. And that was probably, I applied, I was accepted, and, I flew out there, never visiting the campus before, anything like that, and started my college career.
And just for a reference, what year was that?
That was 1984.
Oh my God.
So it was a while ago. Yeah,
I was
before
even
you guys.
born.
I know, before
like
you guys
94,
were born.
Yes. Okay, and then what happened? You choose business and French, economics and French.
I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I started off with, I took a bunch of different classes. And the thing I liked about Smith was that they didn't have requirements. In other words, that you had to have this amount of a language or this amount of math or this and that. You were given the opportunity to try different things. So I tried so many different things for me. I was more I wasn't science-based. That wasn't my focus. But we'll talk about that later.
Yes,
I ended up taking, I thought I was going to major in math. And I was doing calculus, linear algebra. I was doing all these advanced math classes, and I realized that wasn't where my heart was. But I really enjoyed business. I didn't know why, but I did. And so I ended up doing economics, and I had some really great economic professors. But I also took a whole bunch of different classes too. I took everything from history, different types of history classes, art history, French. Well, French, I knew I was going to do something there because one of the things that attracted me to Smith College was their junior year, what they call the junior year abroad program. So your third year of university, quite a few people do go away to another campus, be it to another school in a different part of the country or outside of the country. And Smith had one of the most extensive, oldest exchange programs around.
And that's how you went to France.
And that's how I ended up in France.
What was your first, as an American, and you went to Europe, what was your first impression of it?
I guess I read a lot about it, and I had fantasized about it quite a bit. And I had been to France as my third year of high school. I did a small exchange program for about a month. So I had an idea. I just love the history. I love history.
How was it different than, like, in the sense of education there in Europe?
I thought it was interesting what I learned from at least the French system is that you are identified early on as to what track you take, right? And I found that a little disturbing to me.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, at certain points, I think it's good if you have that, but
Way too early.
But it's early, and everyone develops differently.
Yes.
Just because one child is good in math and will continue to be good in math doesn't necessarily mean that child would take that course. Or if someone may, because of a learning disability, or they may have some other issues, or they're just not interested at that point in time and maybe not mature enough, being told that you shouldn't have an academic career, you should be doing something else, that's not giving that child a chance, or vice versa. So,
what happened after? Did you go for a graduate school for your master's?
Because it was a liberal arts college and it was a private school. Schools here are expensive.
As we know.
As you all know.
Yeah.
So I had, I was on scholarship. I had some scholarship, and I also had loans. So I knew I had to pay those back because I knew my parents sacrificed quite a bit.
That's a lot of burden for people here.
So yeah, and it's much worse than when I was going to school. It's much worse now. It's so much more expensive. I don't know how people do it right now. So anyway, I started working. And I wasn't quite sure what I was going to be doing. So I applied to the Peace Corps, which is a U.S. Peace Corps program.
Yes.
And I had also applied to another exchange program through Mexico. But a friend of mine from college, actually, told me about this job. She had a summer job at a company nearby my house that was a high-tech company. And I just applied for the summer, and I ended up working there for about 2.5 years, and I loved it.
What was the company about?
It's called Western Digital, and they're into storage, hard drive storage. Mm-hmm. They did chips. They did all this, something I never really understood, but I ended up in their finance department and moved from there, grew from there, learned on the job. All my jobs, my whole career has been learning on the job. So I enjoyed it. I like numbers.
It's really inspiring because most people get lost after college. What should they do? Where should they go?
I think you need to be open. You need to be open, learn, explore. This is your time to do it before responsibilities.
In this country, we got to admit, this country offers that. Like a lot of possibilities to shift and go and explore and to find yourself.
My whole career has been that. So,
so you started in tech.
Started in tech, and then after about a few years, maybe 2-3 years, I ended up in a healthcare company called Baxter Healthcare, doing still the finance, doing that, learning a different area of healthcare, a different industry.
Did you like it?
I liked it, but at the same time, it's a very big company, and I found that the job was this is what you did, because this is the department. Mind. It's very, very corporate, and I realized that I don't like it as much. So I decided to go back to get my graduate degree while working full time. So I did I got my MBA, my Master's in Business Administration at UC Irvine, and they offered a program where I could work full time and also take class at night and also on the weekends.
Was it hard for you?
It was tough. It was because I had a full-time job. And I still had to do schoolwork and I had to do all that. But I mean, there were some people in my program that were married. I was single at the time. Married, a couple had children, and I don't know how they did it, but they did it.
Power of will, I would say.
Yeah. There was one woman that she had 2 teenagers. And she lived far away, and she did the whole program. And I told her afterwards, I pulled her aside, and I told her she was my hero.
That's really inspiring.
Yeah.
Okay, after healthcare job, where did you move next? For how long have you been there?
Just a few years, and I'm
to gather the skills and move on.
Yeah, I just moved on. I finished. I was still in my graduate program, and there was a job that came up at a small pharmaceutical biotech company. And I got the job. It was in finance, but I realized that I like the smaller, more where you just dive in and you have to learn things as you go. I love that. That to me feeds me. That feeds my soul. So I ended up working there for a little bit, and there was and I happened to have. So the college I went to, my undergraduate college, Smith College, is known. And I happened to have a sticker on my car with Smith College.
Yes.
And the gentleman walked into our office, the accounting area where I was working, and he he went around and he's like, "Who went to Smith here? Who went to Smith?" And it turned out to be he was the vice president of business development, and he went to school back east at University of Pennsylvania. He went to the Wharton School, which is a very well-known business school there. And he and I started talking. He started giving me some special projects, and he pulled me aside one day and said, as soon as I had just graduated with my MBA, he's like, you don't belong in finance. You need to work with me. So thanks to that sticker on my car.
That's what we call luck, when luck and opportunity meets.
And he was one of my mentors. He's actually been, and we're still very good friends. I'm good friends with the people from different parts of my life, working-wise, because I feel you're always learning, whether it's a good experience or not a good experience, you're always going to learn from there.
And it's good to have a mentor. That's what most entrepreneurs and people in business lack. They need a mentor, and usually it's hard to find it.
Yeah, I lucked out. Because I know, I had someone that was looking over me, and he was one. I was just mentioning this to someone yesterday. I was on a run with a friend of mine, and we were both talking about just life and whatnot while we're running. And I told her one of the things I learned. One of my mentors, a man, told me, I can teach you everything I know from my experience and everything, but I don't know what it's like to be a woman in the corporate world. Let me introduce you to women I trust and I admire from
That's
other
amazing.
places. And he did.
So nice of him.
Yeah.
That's really amazing.
Yeah.
So what happened after that job with him?
I was there for quite a while, and I moved around quite a bit. So I traveled quite a bit with them.
And what was your main role?
It went from finance into business development, into strategic planning, into licensing. I did all these different things. But I was building upon the skill sets I had acquired throughout my career, my skill sets in accounting and finance, and market research, and in business, and then developing business development, licensing, and I learned from all these people along the way. The legal aspect of things, the scientists working on the different things, the regulatory issues because it's drugs. There's a lot of regulatory government issued things you have to go through. For safety and efficacy and all that. So I learned all that, or learned a lot of that, and had some really great resources.
Was that the job before you decided to go by yourself?
Oh, no.
Okay, we still more to go.
And then I worked at a big biotech company afterwards for about a couple years. And again, it was a big company, even though they were supposed to be fast-paced biotech, very, very successful. There were things that I saw that I didn't agree with. That even though their drugs were did improve quality of life for certain patients, I just I didn't feel the same, I wasn't learning as much. And I felt like I was stagnant in this one role, and this is how they do it and so forth. So I went back to my old company, and they were opening up a facility in Lithuania. So,
you went to Lithuania to live.
So I didn't go there to live. I was traveling there every month or so for a while.
Did you like it?
I loved it.
That's a different part of Europe.
I'm still good friends. In fact, one of my good friends is coming from that time, is coming out to visit. I haven't seen him in 15 years. He's coming out.
That's amazing.
He's coming out this weekend. So yeah. So one of the major scientists that we were working with.
And then after that?
After that, so at that point, I was living, in Southern, I've always, pretty much my adult career has been in Southern California. So I've moved up and down the coast, as they say, north of LA, south of LA. And then when I met my husband, he was living down here in San Diego. So I moved, before we were married, I moved down here and was consulting and working with a few other companies and whatnot. But it wasn't fulfilling me. I knew I needed to build something. My dad and my brother are both entrepreneurs. My dad built a manufacturing business that my brother now has taken over, based in here.
What does the company do?
It's called CNC machining. It's CNC machining,
that's
precision
for the food,
machining.
Precision stuff for other parts, like not just food, but like
not food, not necessarily. Their customer base includes aerospace, includes medical device, it includes automotive, it includes all these different manufacturing things. So anyway, and I'm helping with that right now too. So that's part of my other. But I wanted to do something. I wanted to build something. So one of the things in my life, I've always been active. I was a swimmer in high school and in college, a competitive swimmer. I started running and I did a lot of marathons and different.
We just did the 5K marathon.
Good for you! Yay! Did a lot of distance running. I ran New York City Marathon. I've run LA Marathon. I've run all these other.
Are you still doing it?
No, I'm down to half marathons. My knees don't like those big long races anymore. So.
But you did the biggest one, like the 40K, or 21?
I did. Well, marathons are 26.2 miles. Okay. So that's a marathon, which is less than 30 kilometers.
Don't ask me.
Less than.
I can never convert.
I can't remember. I know, and it's. I'll have to convert it. I can't remember.
We can convert it later.
We can convert it later. But anyway, but my husband's a golfer. He loves to play golf. He's great. He grew up playing golf, and I just never understood it or whatnot. So I started playing with him.
What did they do?
I started playing with him, and I actually enjoyed it. I really had a fun time. I'm not good at it at all, but I can see how it's, for here in the U.S. especially, it's actually a good game to know, especially if you want to be, they say, more networked in business, because a lot of people do business on the golf course, is what they say.
Yeah.
So.
Especially here.
In
Europe, it's not developed.
Exactly.
It's coming, but it's coming.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but I couldn't find anything to wear, and I was offended by what was out there for women, and I felt like it was we call it here an old boys network, where it was men telling
old boy club,
telling us what to wear. And I'm sorry, I'm not a short man. I don't wear shirts that are cut like a square and make me look like a square. It's just no good. So
you started complaining.
So I started complaining, and my husband turned to me and said, "Then do something about it." So I'm like, challenge.
Okay, accepted. Game on.
Accepted. Game on. So I found out. I worked with someone for a little bit who was a designer and worked in that athletic area. And she was based here in San Diego. But I soon realized within the year that her designs, her outlook, her vision was not the same as mine.
What did you want to do with the dressing code for women?
I wanted to make things that looked nice, that wore well, that dressed well, that didn't necessarily have to shout out that it was golf all the time. I wanted things that, because I know of a woman like my client, my customer, is busy. She's either a working mom, she's a she's traveling, she's got a lot of things on her plate. She wants comfort, but she wants style, and she wants things that don't break, that don't fall apart, like fast fashion. And she wants to look comfortable and look nice.
Did you do the market research, or it was just like your intuition telling you?
Both.
Okay.
I saw what a lot of people were doing, what I saw from the woman I thought I was going to partner with was the same stuff that I would see all over the place.
It wasn't different.
It wasn't different.
Not
it wasn't.
unique.
Yeah. So I parted ways, and I had to start from scratch. And I just looked around and talked to a lot of different people. Around that same time, a friend of mine, Felina Hansen, who
that I'm going to do interview.
Yes. She started Hair Hub. She was
Where
starting
we are.
Hair, where
It's
we
Hair
are
Hub,
in the
yes.
space, which is a co-working space focused on female entrepreneurs. And through that network, I found someone who could help me with marketing. I found my business attorney who helped me set up my business and everything else. I found a designer. Because I have no background in fashion or anything like that. I just know what I like. I can't draw straight. But I found
you had a vision.
But I had a vision. And I knew if I saw it, I knew it was going to work. So, and this designer, turns out she's based here. She's Swiss. And grew up in the fashion world there in Europe.
Have golf, so probably she knew.
No, she didn't know golf though. She knew fashion. She knew contemporary. She knew fabrics. She's a textile designer as well as a fashion designer. So we just really worked well together, and we created something out of
nothing.
Yeah. So we built out the company name was Vivacity Sportswear, and we
Why
had
Vivacity? Is there any story behind the name, or it was just like you brainstorming one day and said, "Okay, it's Vivian," and then maybe something alive,
Yeah.
and then like Vivacity.
No, it was a friend of mine.
Truth to be told,
I'm
Maša,
like, I have no idea what to call this thing. And so my friend was like, she said she woke up in the middle of the night and she was like, Vivacity.
But it's a really strong name, and it correlates with your name, so
it does.
It's amazing.
And the name means full of life, right? And my name means in Latin, it's Latin derived, Viviana, whatever, Vivian.
Full of life.
Full of life. So it made sense. And here in the U.S., you have to go through, a whole search for trademark and names and all these things. So I made sure there was no Vivacity Sportswear. So I was able to trademark it and go through all that and make sure it was okay.
Can you remember your first days of the company?
Yeah.
Were you alone, or did you have immediately any investment or any capital?
Oh, I did it by myself.
I
started it by myself. Yep.
So did you go to any VC, venture capitalist, or angel investor, or
No, I had to do a proof of concept. I had to make sure that this worked, and I wasn't going to take money.
Like a business plan?
I had a business plan, definitely. I had a vision and whatnot, but what I call a proof of concept is proving that the product's going to work.
How do you make that? Maybe it's beneficial for people watching this.
So for example, in my case, I was I had a vision of golf. I had a vision of, I knew who my customer base was. I called her an avatar. It was an avatar.
Yeah, like a buyer persona.
Yeah. Like, who is my customer? Where does she work, or does she work, or where does she shop? Where does she drive, or where does she go to for vacation? Where does she? All these different things. I had it all spelled out. Where does she hang out on social media? Exact stores, exact places. I had it all spelled out. And from that, and this was someone, again, golf, started in golf because my brand expanded from there. So I just went to local golf courses around here and just said I had made some product and I had a little bit of inventory, and I said, listen, just want to test this. If you have an event, a golf tournament with women or anything like that, can I just present and sell? And if I sell, they get 50% because that's how it works here. If it doesn't work, they didn't buy any inventory. It's no loss on their side. I'm getting feedback, so that's how I started, and that's how I got in.
How did you put what would be the price and
research, and also with my finance accounting background, I knew how to do my product costing, like what really did it cost to make that product. It's not just the material in this case or the labor for cutting and sewing. It's also how much is it to market it? How much is it to ship? How much is it to package? How much is it to...
I have to ask you about the marketing,
Yeah.
though, because, we have social media now, and it's
Sure.
kind of easier, I would say. How was it back then?
Oh,
What
it
did
was,
you-
I mean, you have social media and everything, but you still have to know. It's not easy. I think it's harder now.
Yeah.
I think.
How did it look back then? What did you do to market your product?
I had...
How would people find out that you have the
Yeah,
brand?
obviously word of mouth. I think it starts grassroots. If you have an area where you're in my case, I was here in Southern California, and I knew golf courses here already. Working that way, getting people to sign up to your newsletter. At that point, using email.
Newsletter.
Yeah, and doing
We
that.
still do that.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
of course you do. And doing all that, and then and just getting people word of mouth, getting that turn, and starting to be in certain stores, so people would see the item, learn about it, go on the website, sign up with the newsletter, sign up at that point Facebook, then Instagram.
What was the first store you went in with your...
Oh, it was a very, very, very exclusive golf course
Was
here.
it hard to get?
Somehow I had the woman that I knew that was my avatar that I had met. She introduced me to the buyer there, and so I presented to the buyer, and that's how we tested, and that's how I got in.
Vivian, how networking? What do you think we're gonna go to that part where you sold your business and stuff, but how networking is important for an entrepreneur? I think we should talk about it.
Yeah.
Because people, generally, I think, forget or don't do that enough, or they don't know how to network. So
I think networking to me is a two-way street. Does that make sense? So
Yes.
if you...
Yes, to me, at least.
So if you are, I feel a lot of times, for example, a LinkedIn or something like that, where someone may reach out to you and say, I want to connect with you. I always think about this way. If they're not telling me why, if it's just because they want to add one more person to their followers or something like that, to me, that's lazy.
Yeah.
Why not instead, and this is what I've done, and either you get a response or not, that's fine.
Introduce yourself. Or
Hi, this is, so-and-so, and this, my company. I'd love to learn more about you, or I'm interested in this, and let me know how I can help you. So that's where the two-way street works, right? I feel never burning your bridges is a term we use here in the U.S., right?
We know about
Yeah.
that. Yeah. We also have a
So-
saying in our language about that.
Yeah, because I've had people who've been so supportive from my past lives, from my pharmaceutical life, from my high-tech life. It's really funny how that's all come in, and they were so supportive of my company and helping me with all that. So part of my company's goals, visions or values, was giving back to the community. And because I was manufacturing everything here in San Diego, and a lot of the people who were working with me, the factories, were small
So you
businesses.
outsourced the factory?
Everything, yes.
You outsourced everything?
Yes.
You didn't have in-house?
No.
And how many employees?
I had just a few for social media and everything else, and then the rest we worked with the factories and whatnot. We kept it very simple because it
Yeah,
was just I
automated,
wanted it to be very simple. My line was not crazy, tons of things here and there. I started with the foundation, and I started with what worked because I was testing quite a bit, and then from there I built out.
And was that brand spreading throughout the U.S. or it was just
It
San
was-
Diego area or California area?
No, we also were on the East Coast. We were also in the South. We were also in Japan. We were also
That's huge.
And then when we got into resorts, we were on cruise ships throughout the world. So
And who think of that? idea?
yeah.
Who thought of that? Going to
So
cruise
I
ships?
had a client who's Japanese. And this was through my brother, actually, of all things. He's because he used to live in Japan for many years, and he worked in medical device in the cardiology field. And one of his former colleagues, a Japanese cardiologist, had come over with his wife, and he told her about my line, and she came over and looked at the line and bought me out. and wore the outfit back to Japan, first class. And she wore a jacket that I had with crystal zippers, the whole thing. And then she took a big order from me and put it into, turned out she also had a resort in Japan and put our stuff in her resort. Mm-hmm. Utilizing those resorts, you just have to be open, and you'll never know where that opportunity will come in. And again, it doesn't just appear like this. You have to work at it. You have to be.
So you were the CEO, you were the CTO, you were the everything, or
you are. You end up being a lot of that. So, and I mean, I worked closely with my creative director. I had a social media, I had marketing, but I outsourced a lot of it.
Did you ever have a burnout?
Oh, I always burnt out. Of course, yeah.
That was so honest. I wasn't expecting that.
Oh, yeah. No. Of course you did. Of course. I doubted myself. I doubted early on, especially when I didn't know what I was doing. And I would listen to people, and it didn't sound right to me. But I would do it. I would start, oh, maybe this person does know what they're doing. But something inside me said, I don't know.
What would be your advice to, I don't know, just not just female entrepreneurs, but in general entrepreneurs? Should
they
listen to their intuition,
yes,
or maybe
yes,
other people like?
Yes. I mean, I think you know best at times. And if there's a little voice inside of you that says, oh, that doesn't feel right, I'd listen to that. And I learned, I made some expensive mistakes early on, but then I realized, okay, as soon as
mistakes are good.
Mistakes are good, as long as you learn from them.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're good. No, that's part of the process. It's part of the journey.
What was your toughest moment in your business? Do you recall that?
Oh, there's a few. Gosh. I know.
Or maybe a mistake that cost you a lot of trouble or nerves or money.
I think early on, I hired someone that said she knew a lot, and it was a referral from someone I trusted. And she was hurting my business early on. She was not being nice to our vendors, not being nice. And then when I finally had to let her go, when I realized this isn't working, this is giving me, I didn't even want to talk to her. And when I feel that way about people,
it's bad.
It's bad because I like people. So as soon as I got rid of her, this weight I felt like I could sleep, I could breathe. And I started reaching out to vendors and other people, and I realized what damage she was starting to do.
And how did you recover from that?
I just talked to them and had to apologize and move forward and had the best relationships with them afterwards.
And afterwards, how did you choose your people? Like, what was your measurement? Because a lot of companies or corporate businesses, they're like, okay, you got to have a degree. You got to have a certain degree. Mm-hmm. You got to have this and this skill or speak this and that language and, a lot of variables. Right. But how do you do that?
Referrals, word of mouth, and also testing. Have them do a special project.
For how long would you test them?
It depends on the project, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe put together a social media calendar or a plan for the next 6 months or something to put some, for example, if there was, and see what they come together. Here's our website, here's our collateral, here's what we've done. How would you do this? And pay them for that, because I think that's important to pay them. But then test them that way.
But also, like if you have interns or maybe you're casting for a job, and then do you agree that paying them, and if they're not doing the job, would be worse than actually giving that money for no effort? So what if they're like just on a trial version? Would you still give them the money?
Oh yeah, you have to.
Yes?
You should. Yeah, because legally you should. If you've offered them that, no, I would never. I wouldn't do that.
Okay.
That to me is not good.
When you went for the cruisers and everything, and Vivasti was on the highest hill, what happened then? And for how long did you do Vivasti?
I did Vivasti for almost 10 years. So really what made me change, I guess I get bored quickly.
Okay.
And no, I mean, I enjoyed my business. I loved, and people still wear my things. I played golf the other day, and
is Vivasti still alive?
It's not necessarily. It's not under the Vivacity name. I have, I still have control of that. So I've sold off inventory, and I've sold off some other things, intellectual property from that standpoint. But I decided COVID hit.
Yeah.
And, my biggest customers were resorts and cruise lines. So I
And
had
they
to
were shut
scramble,
down
and I had to
totally.
scramble. They shut down, they had inventory, they had, all these things. So I was scrambling for that. I had some opportunity because of some other work that I've done. Part of doing all this stuff, I got involved with the national group here called National Retail Federation, which is an advocacy, it's a political group, an advocacy group, nonprofit advocacy group for retailers. And I did a lot of advocacy. I was flying into Washington, D.C., and helping to support legislation to help small businesses, small retailers, and whatnot. So through that group, they reached out to me and said, we want to check in on you and thank you for all your help. We have these special programs that we're doing right now with online shopping networks. So I was actually I was on national TV for 2 national, which helped me push through inventory and do all that and get sales out of the way.
Yeah, I was
'Cause
about
people
to
were
ask
home.
you, like, how do you find somebody? Because everybody, the goal, the dream of an entrepreneur is like, I'm going to build this, and I'm going to exit, and sales. I'm going to sell my company.
Not
Most-
everyone. Not
most-
everyone.
most.
Yeah, not everyone. So, I at that point I was like, okay, I'm done. I did it. How can I maybe because I'm a little older now. I'm older. I always think about, okay, what do I want to do to pay forward to help people down the road? Because I went through this. If I can help someone do that, and that's where my mind slowly changed. And it was changing even before the pandemic. I was already starting to do some consulting for other people, helping them with their product development, helping them avoid mistakes I made, and just being very clear as to what they wanted to develop, how they wanted to develop. And I was testing that a little bit too right before the pandemic, which was really interesting.
So you sold Vivacity, and where did you go next?
So I kept the Vivacity part of the name, and I've created a company called Vivacity Advantage, which is business consulting. So taking my years of my corporate business and finance and strategy and building products and building a business and getting it up to scale, I do consulting for that. So I've been working with both for-profit and nonprofits, which is another
So you're
area.
kind of a business mentor, I would
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
Only to female entrepreneurs,
No,
or everyone who wants
anyone
it?
who, yeah. I mean, I try to support people that quite honestly, it's really a nice place to be because I like working with people that, are trying to do good and that have similar values that I do.
So how does your company today look like?
It's been, I've been working with a lot of different people. For example, I've been working with a group out of Australia. They're a nonprofit and they focus on men's health, and that's been really exciting. Working with someone who heard of me through a podcast I was on, and she's based in France, and I'm helping her with some of her product development and her marketing and so forth.
You do LinkedIn? Do you do like now modern ways of social networks, like doing Instagram or?
I do. I do not like social media. That's my problem.
But do you have a social content creator?
No, I just do. It's mine is word of mouth. I've been working with, and
Well, you've been in the game for a long time.
I've been in the game for a long time. I do some posts and things like that on LinkedIn, so I'll use LinkedIn more than anything else.
I think we didn't say the most important thing. It's not the most important thing, but like, how old are you, Vivian?
Oh no, I'm in my 50s.
But that's still amazing that you still have the grind and the will to be in the business, because mostly people like pull out or enjoy, a little bit travel.
Oh, see, not my people, not the people, not the women I know.
So how long do you think you're gonna, push for this entrepreneurial path?
I love learning, so I think as long as I can, I will continue.
So are you gonna, what are the next things? Are you gonna do this business consulting, or you have any other ideas working on, projects happening?
I've been doing, I think continuing the business consulting is that. There are some potential opportunities as far as working abroad. Again, I've been part of the YTILI program and the YTILI program, which has been wonderful. So I had a relationship I had a mentor come in from Uruguay right before the pandemic, and then I was able to travel out to Uruguay and work with her. And last October I was in the UK because I had a fellow from the YTILI program. And she worked with me for a month here, and she's amazing as well. And so I worked with her in Manchester and in London. So I love that, those
I
opportunities.
think I forgot to ask you how intense was or challenging was to be also a mother and an entrepreneur and like a lot of roles you have.
Yeah, well,
like
I'm not
sister.
I have a stepdaughter, so I don't have children myself, but I have a stepdaughter who's amazing. You have to have a very supportive, being in a marriage, in a partnership, whatever it may be. You have to have hopefully an understanding partner. That's really important because I like to have peace at home.
Yes.
I think that's really important, and I feel like even with, if you are in a relationship or not or whatever it is, giving some space for yourself to really get away from it all. For a while, so much early on in the entrepreneurial journey that it was just like so intense. I had to step away, and I instituted like once a week, I stayed away from my computer for a day. And I did things that I really love, I love the outdoors. I still swim. I'm a swimmer and I'm a runner, and I play golf now. And I love hiking, and so I need a day away out in fresh air and nature, whatever it may be. That to me, that gives me, that feeds my soul.
Is it still like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do run and swim and do all that.
So to sum it up, what would be your best advices to young entrepreneurs starting out there, struggling, having doubts, or just in the beginning of their entrepreneurial road?
Yeah.
What would you say to them?
Don't be so hard on yourself. Like really take it one day at a time. And as much as you can, if it becomes so overwhelming, step back. Give yourself a break. Give yourself some space. Breathe. And you'll be amazed. Just stepping away from it just helps. Gives you perspective. And reach out to people. Because obviously, people who are older maybe or who have been in the game, they like to talk about this stuff. And they are helpful. So don't be shy, don't be afraid to ask. But be very, very specific in your ask. And again, this is one more piece, be sure that you're also offering something too, because you don't want it to be one-sided and come off as being a little selfish or too opportunistic or something.
And some life advices? Because you had a lot on your plate. You've been to corporate jobs, you traveled back and forth, Europe, America, around the globe. So what would be your life advices?
Oh, I love travel, obviously. And I think just being open and always learning. That's the part of life that's amazing.
Vivian, thank you so much for this episode. I know I bother you because this is a YouTube.
Yeah.
Everybody is expecting here in America it's going to be an audio one. So I have to
That's okay.
to tell you because,
no.
as you said, in America everything should be short and But thank you so much for taking your time.
Thank you for having me, and I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks.